Well, hey people, welcome to my channel. My name is Tina. Today I am not making a dress. I know, strange. I am making a shirt today. And here I'm going to show you the design. So I'm sketching out the design here. It is a shirt with a bib and it's divided at the waist. And that is because it's based on my favorite shirt or blouse, which is a thing I usually make sleeveless. I'm going to include here a few pictures of my favorite things made out of this pattern. So I've made modifications here. I've added sleeves and I've also made this sort of waistband, the lower part, a bit longer, so it's more like a shirt. Here's the first one I made from this pattern. This is what I call the reporter vest. Second one. Third one with a long tie band. And here I have drawings of my first 3 versions of this top. And this edition with sleeves that I'm trying now is maybe ruining the whole thing. I don't know really. But I really have high hopes about this one because this is part of my capsule wardrobe. It's called the Scarlet Fever and it's heavily inspired by Vivienne Westwood. And if you've seen my earlier videos, you know that when I make a capsule wardrobe, it's not about beige trench coats at all. No beige trench coats, okay? It is about creating a group of clothing in my wardrobe that actually go together because it's the problem for most of us. I think we have separates that we like and love wearing, but they don't go with anything else we have. So when I plan a capsule wardrobe, I plan it as a travel wardrobe. Okay, so and this started as a travel wardrobe when I was going to London. It's now almost 2 years ago. Yeah, time flies. But I'm still not finished with this wardrobe. And that's okay. I keep on adding things to the same theme over the years because this is a thing that I like to wear. These are colors I like to wear. It's a lot of pink and red, and especially pink and red together. One of the things it's supposed to go with is this, well, I suppose I should back up a little, jacket. Do you see it? Do you see it? And this video about making this jacket is not out yet. It's coming, so stay tuned for that one. As you can see, these colors go really nice together. They go really well together. We have a white cotton and off-white cotton. This one, when I bought it, was glazed or a chintz. But after you wash it, and I have pre-washed these, you lose that shiny surface. So it's more like just a plain cotton now. And then we have the pink striped cotton. Also, just a remnant from something. And this is going to go on the bib of the shirt. You can see my drawing here, my plan. Let's do that. And of course, right away when I started cutting out, I realized I was a bit short on fabric. That's a side effect of getting most of your stuff from charity shops. I had a bit of a panic here, but after some quick thinking, everything worked out. And of course, when I started cutting out the second fabric, the striped pink one, well, I realized I had very little of that one too. But you just need to take a deep breath in and out. Everything will be fine in the end. So my first step in sewing is sewing the back yoke together because I had to divide it into 2 pieces. So it's pieced, but it's supposed to look like a design choice. But you and me, we know this was an emergency. I had to do it this way. So after marking center back, top and bottom of the yoke, I remove the paper pieces, and after that I tape the pattern back together, the paper pattern. It's really good when you're storing your patterns. Don't store them cut apart. Tape them back together, my advice. And after that, sewing the piece, the sort of missing piece, I'm sewing it to the yoke, and in the end we have a whole complete yoke. And by the way, to sew a corner like this, you have to cut and pivot the seam when you sew it. I'm trying to show you on screen, but doing it with one hand while you're filming with the other hand is a bit messy. But in the end, the corner looks really nice, actually. And after that, I have to repeat the exact same steps with the bottom of the front, taping the pattern pieces back together and sewing the two pieces of this. What are we going to call this one? The skirt of the blouse? With those seams out of the way, sewn, overlocked and top stitched down, it's time to move on to the bib. Number one, I am marking all the balance marks of the front and the bib because this is a rounded seam. It's got opposing curves and markings, balance marks. It's extremely important in seams like this. But of course, once you have all these marked, it's quite easy to pin these pieces together in the exact right place. And it looks messy and it feels messy because one of the sides is way bigger than the other. But if the marks are in the correct place and you pin according to them, and also make cuts in the seam allowance that seems a little too short, not passing through the seam line, of course, just into the actual seam allowance, this will work out in the end. And of course, after sewing this bib in place, I finish the seam in the same way. I overlock and it's also top stitched down to the front side. After that, it's time to add the bottom. I suppose you could call it a peplum. That's a funny little word. Let's use it. So it's time to sew the peplum to the bottom of the shirt. First, there's a little pleat that needs to go in between, but after that, I sew the seam and I finish it in the usual way. Now, with the front complete, it's time to work on the back side. So I pin and sew the yoke to the top of the backside, including the pleats in the back. And with the back complete, it's easy for me to pin the shoulders together and try it on. I want to see what the shoulders and the armhole looks like. And actually, everything looks good. I'm happy with this. And with that out of the way, it's time to add the peplum to the bottom of the back. But first, the pleats. And these pleats in the back, they are folded at an angle, so it takes some fiddling to get them just right. And when I'm done with that, I realized the back piece is still a little bit too big, so I add in 2 small pleats on each side. But after that, I just pin the peplum in place and sew it, standard procedure. By the way, you might wonder, why is this seam that goes across the body at waist height in the back, why is it shaped like this? It's because it's needed to follow the shape of the sway back. Most of us have a sway back. I have quite a pronounced one, so that's why this seam isn't just straight across the back, because I want some shaping here. All right, it's time to start fiddling with the sleeves. And I really mean fiddling, because I really don't know what I want here. Some kind of opening, perhaps I'm thinking about putting in some kind of tab to keep it closed. I really haven't decided, and I also have very little of the contrasting fabric left. So I'm experimenting. But I've decided on this slit in the sleeve, and I'm actually pulling on the fabric, ripping it apart, because that gives you a very straight line, and this is a fabric where this is possible. Sometimes it doesn't work and it will instead destroy the fabric. Don't try this at home. And I'm going for a pretty simple placket, or, just a little opening in the sleeve. So I'm cutting out strips of the striped fabric. I try to match the stripes so they become identical. This is really overdoing it. No one will see if the 2 plackets are identical, one on each side of the body. But anyways, they turn out really nice, and I'm happy so far. We'll see about the rest here. And to get an idea of what I want with this sleeve, I sew the sleeve into the shirt and then I try it on. And I fiddle back and forth with several different little pleats, and finally I'm pretty happy with the arrangement. And After this, I just need to transfer the same pleats to the other sleeve and hopefully also to the pattern so I can reuse it. But you know, since I'm pinned it pretty carefully, it's not that complicated to actually make proper markings on the sleeve and then undo the pleats and cut the new length of the sleeve and then transfer this to the paper pattern and then use the paper pattern to transfer to the other sleeve. Not too complicated, it just takes a lot of steps. And after that, it was just super simple to do the same thing with the other sleeve. And then I set the sleeves into the body. As you can see, I use the method of setting the sleeves before I sew the side seam. I just find it easier and quicker. There's nothing wrong with doing it the other way, and sometimes I do it, but for simple shirts, basic things like this, I don't find it worth the hassle. But you can of course do this any way you like. The difference is not really that big, I think. Oh, and the other method I mention is that you sew the side seam first and the inside seam of the sleeve, and then you sew the sleeve in as a circle into the arm opening. As I said, I don't think the method matters a lot actually. And now it's time to work a little bit on center front. My usual method for making a front placket sewn on, like here, is to press it beforehand. So I have a long strip of fabric, all edges pressed in and the center of it also pressed down. As you can see, everything, all sides is already prepared and in place. I can just pin this in place and sew it in one go. But that only works in this kind of fabric that is very stiff and holds pressing very well. But before I sew the front placket, I need to check out the neck opening, the neck hole. So I try the shirt on and I make a few adjustments. I really want to make it a little bit bigger, so I cut away a little bit. And when I'm happy with that, I have to create a facing. And by now I have really tiny pieces of fabric left. But I manage. I make it sort of directly onto the shirt and add seam allowance. Of course, I make it in several pieces and it takes a little while to fix this, but I manage. I sew it all together. And of course, then I pin it right sides to right sides in the neck opening, fold it over to the inside and top stitch it in place, and now we have a finished neck opening. So my next step after this is sewing up the side seams. They were still not finished. And after that, creating the cuffs for the sleeves. Just simple basic bands along the bottom edge of the sleeves. Very simple. And after that, I create the tie bands, the longer tie bands that go in the front of the shirt. And if you want to sew bands like this inside out and then turn them and press them, you can do that. I would never. I press the edges in all the way around long bands and then I top stitch all around. Way easier, way faster, but once again, you can do however you like. And with these long bands prepared, one of the last steps of this blouse is to hem it. And this is just a simple fold under twice narrow hem, very basic. And after that, I attach these long tie bands. They are attached in a form of pleat at the front, you could say. So the fabric is already bunched up a little bit already under these bands, but they are also supposed to pull the blouse together in the front. And the absolute final step is to sew it closed in the front. And I'm not going to add buttons and buttonholes here. Now, as a side note, when I sew blouses, work uniforms for my work, I work in an Edwardian castle. Those blouses have 17 buttonholes and 19 buttons each, and I have this year so far made 14 blouses. So I'm fed up. I've had it. No more buttons and buttonholes. And besides, I happen to like this look. Just a plain front, you know. pretty basic. And with that, my friends, we have arrived at our final stop. This blouse or shirt is done.